A middle-aged man, loyal, hardworking, the backbone of his company, is suddenly fired without explanation. He's devastated. His daughter watches him spiral, humiliated and broken. Just when all hope seems lost, he stumbles upon a strange-looking app on his old phone, something he'd downloaded and forgotten. Out of curiosity, he opens it, and what happens next not only changes his life, but shakes the entire tech world. This story isn't just about a man getting lucky. It's about second chances, father-daughter love, and how sometimes the smallest things turn into life's biggest miracles. Before starting the story, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any update in future. It was a Thursday morning when the world went silent for Arav Mehta. He had walked the same path to work for 17 years, from the faded green gate of his apartment, down 2 cracked sidewalks, past the chai stall where the owner always nodded good morning, and into the towering glass building of Ragin Tech. But that morning, the security guard didn't smile. His ID beeped red instead of green. And by the time he reached the 9th floor, his nameplate had already been removed. "Arav," said a man in a stiff gray suit, "HR wants to see you." No warning, no conversation, just a generic envelope with his final paycheck, a soulless explanation about restructuring, and a cold, "We thank you for your service."
He didn't speak, didn't argue,
just stared at the floor, the edges of the letter trembling in his hand. Everything he had built his identity around, gone in under 2 minutes. Arav was 52. Too old, they'd say in whispers. Too traditional. Too slow for modern tech culture. As he stepped out into the busy street, the city didn't pause for him. Horns blared, buses hissed. People rushed past him like he was invisible. And for the first time in his life, he felt like maybe he was.
He didn't go home right away.
Instead, he sat on a rusted bench outside a metro station, gripping the pink slip in one hand and his aging phone in the other. His thumb hovered over the screen, uncertain. What would he even tell his daughter? Myra was only 17, preparing for college, full of dreams. How would she look at him now? A man with no job, no backup, no idea what to do next. He opened WhatsApp and stared at their last chat. "Dad, don't forget to pick up the almond milk." That one line broke him. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, and buried his face in his hands. The tears came silent but heavy, soaking into the thin fabric of his work shirt. Around him, the world moved on. Nobody noticed the man falling apart at the edge of the platform. That's when his phone buzzed. A forgotten notification from an app he barely remembered downloading. Launch CodeFlow AI. Build your ideas instantly. Arav frowned. It had been a recommendation from a younger colleague months ago. Some AI app that helped with code generation, workflow builds, and app prototyping. At the time, he had laughed. AI can't replace human logic, he'd said.
But now?
Now he had nothing left to lose. He tapped it. The interface booted up, sleek, fluid, almost too simple. A glowing cursor blinked, waiting. "What would you like to build today?" Arav stared at the screen. His mind was foggy, but deep down, an old idea stirred. A dream he had once, years ago, before promotions and deadlines buried it. Back when Myra was just a little girl afraid of speaking in public, Arav used to invent silly little confidence games for her, small activities that helped kids speak better, express themselves, feel heard. It was his passion project once, a dream he'd never dared pursue. His fingers began typing, an app that helps children speak confidently through voice games and daily challenges. The AI paused, then replied, "We love that idea. Let's build it together." And with that, something inside him clicked. For the next 6 hours, Arav sat glued to that metro bench. The app asked questions. Arav answered. It suggested names. He rejected 5, approved 1, Voxy, a name Myra once gave to her imaginary friend who spoke for her when she was too shy. The AI wrote the code, built wireframes, even simulated voice games. Arav added his own touches, lessons he had crafted over years of fatherhood, moments of failure, encouragement, quiet victories. He poured his soul into Voxy. By the time streetlights flickered on and the city began cooling down. The first version of the app was ready. He didn't know what to expect. He uploaded it to a test site, shared it anonymously in a few parenting forums. Then he went home. Myra was waiting by the door. "Dad," she asked softly, seeing his empty hands. "Did something happen?" He nodded. "Yes," he said. "Something ended. But maybe something just began too." She looked confused, but hugged him anyway. That night, Arav didn't sleep, and neither did his phone. By morning, his inbox had 312 unread emails. "Is Voxy available for Android? My son just tried your app. He asked me to thank you. Who built this? It's genius. Are you open to partnerships?" Arav blinked at the screen, stunned. It wasn't trending. It wasn't viral. Not yet. But something had started. A whisper. A ripple in a still pond. Voxy was out in the world, and the world was starting to notice. He opened his inbox again, heart pounding. One subject line stood out. "We need to talk about Voxy, urgent." From Team Spark Ventures. Arav's hand trembled as he clicked. Inside was a short message.
Hi.
"We just saw what you built. Let's talk investment. This has potential to change everything." Arav stared at those words. Change everything. And for the first time in weeks, he smiled. Not a forced smile. Not a tired one. But the kind that begins deep inside your chest when hope returns. Arav sat in his kitchen, phone still in hand, staring at that email like it might vanish if he blinked too hard. Spark Ventures. He'd heard the name before. They funded startups with heart. Not just big money ideas, but stories, ones that changed lives. Still, doubt creeped in. Why would they want his app? Built in less than a day, on a borrowed dream, by a man they probably assumed was 20 years younger and fluent in Silicon Valley slang? He glanced at Myra, who was buttering toast across the table, humming something quietly. She looked up and caught his gaze. "Dad? What's wrong?" He hesitated. "I might have built something. Something people are noticing." Her eyes widened. "You built an app?" He nodded slowly. "What kind?" Arav smiled. "Remember Voxy?" She froze. Her hands stilled, the butter knife resting midair. "You used that name?" she whispered. "I did." And then she did something Arav hadn't expected. She got up, walked around the table, and hugged him.
Tightly. Fiercely.
Like she knew he had just taken the pain of the last 24 hours and turned it into something meaningful. Later that day, the Zoom call was set. Arav ironed his shirt twice, ran a comb through his hair 6 times, and paced the hallway like a nervous teenager on prom night. He almost canceled 3 times. But at exactly 3 p.m., he clicked join. 2 faces popped up on the screen, a woman with sharp eyes and a warm smile, and a younger man with a hoodie and a distracted, analytical gaze. "Hi, Mr. Mehta," the woman began. "I'm Ria, head of outreach. This is Dan, our CTO. First of all, what you built is incredible." Arav blinked. "You mean it works?" Dan leaned forward. "It doesn't just work. It's brilliant. The voice sequencing, the confidence modules, the personal storytelling elements, they're simple but so human. We tested it on 2 of our staffers' kids this morning.
They didn't want to stop."
Arav's mouth felt dry. "I built it in less than a day." "That's what makes it even more impressive," Ria said. "But here's the real reason we're here, Mr. Mehta. We want to help scale it." "Scale," he echoed.
We want to invest. Partner.
"You keep creative control, but we help fund, develop, and launch it globally. Think schools, therapy centers, even voice recognition AI labs." He stared at the screen. A day ago, he was invisible on a metro bench. Now 2 strangers were offering to take his forgotten dream and put it in front of the world. "But I'm not a startup guy," he said. "I'm just me. I don't even have a LinkedIn profile." Dan laughed gently. "That's okay. What you have is better. You have heart. This app has soul. We'll help with the rest." Ria smiled. "Just say yes." Arav looked over at Myra, who was now pretending not to eavesdrop from the hallway. He didn't need time to think. "Yes," he said. Let's do it. And just like that, everything began to move fast. Over the next 3 weeks, Arav found himself swept into a whirlwind he'd never imagined. Zoom calls with design teams in California, branding meetings, a full rework of the user interface, all while keeping the voice, the games, and the warmth intact. They asked him to record samples. "My voice?" he had asked, stunned. "Yes," Riyah had said. "Kids trust your tone. It feels like a father talking, a teacher, someone who believes in them."
So he did.
He sat in his tiny bedroom closet, under a blanket, recording lines like, "You're doing great. Try again. I believe in you." And every time he heard those lines played back, it didn't feel like a job. It felt like a purpose. But it wasn't just Arav changing. Myra began spending more time with him. She'd peek into his work sessions, offer feedback, test early versions. One night, he found her on the couch with his tablet, playing one of the speech games he'd created. She looked up, eyes shining. "Dad, this really works." He didn't reply. His heart was too full. Then one morning, everything exploded. A parenting influencer with 4 million followers posted about Voxy on Instagram. Her caption read, "My daughter used to hide behind me in every room. We tried Voxy for 3 days. Today, she spoke up in class for the first time. Thank you to whoever made this. You changed our lives." The post went viral in less than 4 hours. By evening, #VoxyApp was trending across TikTok and Twitter. Downloads skyrocketed. Arif's inbox became unmanageable. He got calls from journalists, invites to podcasts, even a message from the education minister's office asking if he would consult on a national speaking program. But amid the noise, one message stood out. It was from his old boss at Rage and Tech, the same man who'd handed him the pink slip. Subject line, "I saw the news. You've done something amazing." Arif stared at it for a long time, then quietly closed the email without replying. He wasn't angry.
He didn't need to be.
Because the world had already spoken. The man they called outdated, irrelevant, too slow for modern tech? He had built something timeless. Not a flashy app, not another forgettable product, but something that gave people, especially children, their voices back. And as the sun set outside his window that evening, Arif didn't think about the investors or the money or the press. He thought about one thing, that moment on the metro bench when everything was broken, and how sometimes rock bottom isn't the end. Sometimes it's the launch pad. The day of the Voxy launch event felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, terrifying, beautiful, and impossible to walk away from. Arif looked at himself in the mirror. Pressed blazer, new glasses, tired eyes, yes, but behind them, something else. A quiet power, not arrogance, not pride, just a man who had fallen and decided to build wings on the way down. Outside, the auditorium buzzed with people, educators, parents, investors, even a few celebrities. A banner above the stage read, "Voxy, a voice for the voiceless." Arif adjusted his cufflinks, though they didn't need adjusting. Every movement felt surreal. He could barely believe this was real. Riyah knocked gently at the green room door. "You ready?" she smiled. "I'm not a speaker," he said softly.
She grinned.
"That's the irony, isn't it?" He chuckled. "Yeah, maybe it is." When he stepped onto the stage, the lights blinded him for a second. But then he heard it. Applause. Not the polite kind. The real kind. Warm, loud, grateful. The kind that wraps around your soul like a hug you didn't know you needed. He walked to the mic.
Paused.
Looked at the crowd. And then he spoke. "I wasn't supposed to be here," he began. 3 months ago, I was fired from my job. No warning. No goodbye party. Just a letter. The crowd quieted. I sat on a bench that day thinking this was it. That everything I had built, given, sacrificed meant nothing. But then, I found something. Or maybe it found me. He took a breath. My daughter once had trouble speaking. So, I made up games to help her. Just small things, silly voices, pretend characters, confidence tests. It helped her. Gave her courage. And that memory, that love, it built Voxy. He glanced down for a moment, voice softening. This app was born out of failure, but it grew with faith. And now, it's not mine anymore. It belongs to every child who needs a voice. Every parent searching for a way in. Every teacher hoping to reach one more kid. Silence. The kind that only comes when people aren't just listening, they're feeling. And then, a standing ovation. It went on for nearly a full minute. Arav didn't move. He just watched, not the lights, not the cameras, but the faces.
Dozens of them.
Some crying.
Some smiling.
All moved. Later that evening, a mother approached him near the refreshment table. She held the hand of a boy, maybe 9, with gentle eyes and a nervous smile. "This is Arash," she said. "He's been nonverbal most of his life. 3 weeks ago, he used your app and said his first full sentence." Arav knelt to the boy's level. "What did you say, Arash?" he asked gently. The boy looked at him and whispered, "I said, 'Hi, Mom. I'm not scared anymore.'" Arav's throat tightened. He reached out and shook the boy's hand. "That's the bravest thing anyone said today," he whispered back. As they walked away, tears spilled from Arav's eyes, quiet, proud, full of grace. It wasn't about code. It wasn't about fame. It was about impact. He had given a voice to someone who'd lived in silence. That was everything. A week after the launch, YouTube was flooded with Voxy reaction videos. Parents documenting their kids. Teachers uploading classroom transformations. Even speech therapists requesting collaboration. Downloads crossed 1 million in just 11 days. Voxy was now not just an app, it was a movement. One afternoon, Arav sat in his garden, sipping chai, when Myra came out holding a letter. He raised an eyebrow. "Good news?" She bit her lip, trying not to smile. "You'll want to sit for this." "I'm already sitting." She handed him the envelope. Inside was a gold-trimmed invitation. United Nations Education and Innovation Conference, keynote speaker, Arav Mehta. He blinked. "They want me to speak?" Myra laughed. "Yes, Dad."
"Speak."
The man who gave thousands of children their voice is finally being asked to use his.
He didn't know what to say.
So she added, "You earned this. And you didn't just change our life. You changed lives." He pulled her close, hugged her tight. "It was always for you," he whispered. "I just didn't know the world needed it too." And then came the final twist. A moment that tied everything together. 3 days later, Arav received a call from an unknown number. It was his former colleague, Amir from Ragin Tech, the one who had always believed in him but was powerless to stop the layoff. "Arav bhai," Amir said, voice shaky. "I had to call. Ragin just announced they're shutting down. Profits dipped. Bad decisions. But when I heard, I thought of you." Arav listened silently. "You remember how you always said our software lacked heart? That we built products, not purpose." "I remember," Arav said gently. "Well, you were right, and I was wrong." There was a pause. "Congratulations, man. The world finally saw who you are." When the call ended, Arav didn't feel revenge. He felt closure, because the truth was simple. They had fired him, but life had hired him for something far greater.
Not a job.
A legacy. Months later, Voxy partnered with education ministries in 6 countries. Arav now traveled, spoke, taught, but never forgot the bench outside that metro station. He'd go there sometimes, sit quietly, watch people pass. One evening, Myra joined him there. "You really made it, Dad," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. He smiled. "No," he whispered. "We made it." And as the sun dipped below the city skyline, Arav looked out at a world that once forgot him, now whispering his name in every voice that dared to speak. Sometimes life pushes us to rock bottom, not to punish us, but to clear the path for a transformation we never imagined. When you lose everything, you finally realize what truly matters. And often, it's in those darkest moments that the brightest breakthroughs are born. Never underestimate the power of a single idea or the kindness of one stranger who believes in you.